Hi everyone, this is just a brief recording to show you how the Gamemaker software can be used to create a game. Hopefully you can see that it's actually quite user-friendly to use, and you can pick it up quite easily. So if you come along to the training sessions for the Girls Gamemaker competition, then you'll be able to learn lots of different ways of creating different types of games, and you can see that actually it's quite easy to use, and you don't really need to know a lot of you don't need to know any previous coding experience, right? It can be picked up by anyone who's never coded before, and we have lots of people during the competition and the training sessions who will be able to help you and guide you. So in a game, one of the first things you need to do is to create some art assets for your game. So we need to create some sprites for it. So there's a whole bunch of buttons along the toolbar, and this one here is to create a new sprite. So if I click on this, it basically pops up another window for us, and we can fill in some values. So the first thing is the name. So let's call it SPR player ship, and we can then load a sprite. And I already have some sprites on my desktop, Games Invaders, and there's our player ship. You'll notice that there's kind of a green background around it. So if you click the remove background, we can remove all the green stuff, and we're just left with a nice picture of our player ship. So click on that, click open. You can see our player ship has been added here. The other thing we want to do is to center the origin. So at the moment the origin is 0, 0, which is the top left hand corner, and that means when we create things relative to the origin, relative to the ship, it's created at the origin. So we want to center that. So the sprite is a 32 pixel by 32 pixel sprite, so when we center it, it's going to be 16 across and 16 down. That gives us the center. So just click center and it does that automatically for you. The other thing we want to do is to tick precise collision checking. If you don't tick that, when anything collides with our sprite, as long as it hits the actual rectangle of our sprite, that will trigger the collision. But if I tick precise collision checking, then that means that it has to actually touch a part of the ship, not just the grey area, to trigger the collision checking. So we want precise collision checking. So click OK, and there you go. We've just added a new art asset to our game. So you can just find free sprites off the internet, or you can even just design your own. So let's create another sprite for an alien ship, for a player bullet. We'll do alien ship in a minute. So player bullet. Let's load a sprite. So let's load the player bullet sprite here. Make sure remove background is ticked. We want to center the sprite, and we want precise collision checking as well. Click OK. So now we've got two sprites added in our game. You can see them over here. Let's do another one. SPR enemy ship. Enemy ship 1. Click load sprite. So we want enemy ship 1 sprite. Click open. Again, center the origin. Tick precise collision checking. Okay, so that creates the 3 sprites that we need so far for our game, and you can easily add more sprites by just using the create a sprite button. Okay, so the next thing we want is a background for our game. So we're doing a Space Invaders type game, so we're going to create a background. So this one here is the create a background button. If I click on that, let's call it starry background. Click the load background button, and we can just load a background up. So there's already an image file provided for us. This time we don't want to remove background, because that removes all the black stuff, which is not what we want. We want to keep all the black area. So tick remove background, and you see the little white dots to represent the stars. So untick remove background, and that keeps that. Click open, and there's our starry background. So just click OK, and that creates a background for us. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create an object for our player ship. So if you want the game to react at all or do things, you have to have an object for the various things in the game. So we have a sprite for our player ship, which is the graphical representation, but we also want to create an object for our player ship. You just click create an object, which is the blue ball, type in a name, so it's obj for object, and then player ship, all one word. And we can easily set the sprite for our player ship object by just doing that, and that creates our player ship sprite. Okay, so click OK, and now we have an object for our player ship. Cool, so we've got some sprites, we've got an object for the player ship, we have a background. The next thing to do is create a room. So in Gamemaker, a room is like a level. So you finish one level, you move on to the next level. you finish a room in Gamemaker, you move on to the next room. So the create a room button is this one here. So click on that. In the settings tab, if you go to the settings tab, we can change the width and height. So let's make it 640 by 480. So that's how you can change the room size to match what you want for your game. You can give your room a name. We could call it, say, level 1 if we wanted to. Then if we go to the backgrounds tab, we can stick our background in there. So at the moment, it's got no background. So if you tick this button, you can select your starry background, and hey presto, it appears. So you can see that a lot of the stuff, you're not actually writing any code, you're just using the software and telling it what to do. And that's how we can create a game. So it's really quite easy. Now at the moment, if we were to run that would be static. It wouldn't move. So if I just scroll this down a bit, you can get to the horizontal speed and the vertical speed settings. So horizontal speed scrolls horizontally, vertical speed scrolls vertically. So if we put a number in there like 1, the higher the number, the faster it moves. So let's say 3. Click the green tick, and if we were to run our game, you can see that it will pop up with our game window. Eventually, it's just starting to run it. Hopefully it's going to run it. There we go, it's doing its work. And it comes up, and you can see that our stars are moving because it's scrolling vertically with a speed of 3. So how easy is that? Just to get a scrolling screen appear. So you can control the way it scrolls very easily. So if we go back to our level, what we can now do is place a player ship into that room so that we can control it. So if we go to the Objects tab, and the object to add with the left mouse is already set to the player ship object, so just click once with the left mouse button and it adds a player ship. If I put one too many, I can right click on it and select delete, and that will get rid of it. So we have one player ship. Now at the moment, it won't do anything because I haven't told the player ship to actually move. Okay. If I double click on the player ship object, in this window there are two main sections. There's the events section and the actions section. So the events section, we can tell the game what type of events to handle. So if I press a key or I click a button on the mouse, that generates an event, and I can tell Gamemaker that this event can be handled by this player ship object. And then based on that event, I can put in the actions section the different actions I want to perform. So I want to move this ship with the left arrow key. So I go to add event to add a new event, go to keyboard to select the keyboard key, and choose left, which is the left arrow button on the keyboard. So if I press the left arrow button key while the game is running, it triggers this event. It will perform any actions that I want in here. So I want to move to the left direction. So in the move section, there's a bunch of actions. All you need to do is click on one and drag it in. So we want the move fixed action, which is the very first one. So I click on that, drag that in, and this window here appears. So to get it to move in the left direction, all I need to do is click on the left arrow key. So that says, hey, move towards the left. Give it a speed. So type in 5. It's going to move towards the left with a speed of 5. I won't click relative just yet because I'll come back to that in a minute. So we can test that action by running the game and seeing what happens. So let's run that. So it's coming up. So there's my player ship in the scrolling background. Press the left arrow key. Oh, it keeps going. It won't stop. Oops, it's gone. So what it's doing is it's still moving to the left even though it's outside your room. It's moving towards the left, invisibly towards infinity, because computers are dumb. Right? They only do what we tell them to do. They cannot think for themselves. So we have to tell it to stop moving when I release the left arrow key. So let's have a look at how to do that. So we need to add another event. So go to add event, choose key release for releasing a key, choose the left arrow key. So this event is triggered when I release the left arrow key. So to stop moving, I just drag our move fixed in again. To stop moving, we press the middle button, set the speed at 0, tick OK, and I might just quickly add in the right events as well. So keyboard, move towards the right, drag in the move fixed. We want to move towards the right with a speed of 5, click OK, go add event, go key release on the right arrow key, drag that in, press stop, press OK. So now we should be able to move left and right, stopping and starting, as I press the left keys, press the arrow keys, and stop moving. So you can see that it stops moving now as I press the arrow key. move back the other way, okay, and you can also move it up and down if we wanted to as well, okay. So just to finish up, the last thing we want to do is get our ship to fire some bullets. Now remember, we have a sprite for our player bullet, but remember, you always need to have an object if you want things to happen during the game. So we need to create a new object, so create an object here. So let's call it obj player bullet. Set the sprite to our player bullet sprite, okay, and when we create a player bullet in the game, it should do something automatically. As soon as the bullet is created, it should start moving up the screen automatically, right? So that we can fire it at the enemy ships. So if I click on add event, we want the create event. So this event is triggered when a bullet is created. So as soon as the bullet is created, this event is triggered. So all I need to do now is just drag in the move fixed action and just tell the bullet, hey, start moving up the screen with, say, a speed of 7. We won't tick relative. Actually, I was going to show you relative with the movement. I'll do that in a minute. So we won't tick relative. Click OK. Click OK again. So we can't run that yet because the ship doesn't fire the bullet. So we'll just set up the bullet object itself. So I go back to the player ship. Let's have a look and see what happens when if I double click on this action, it opens it back up. And this is how you can open up an object and change the values. If I tick relative this time for moving left and tick relative this time for moving right, let's see what happens. So if I run that, if I hold the arrow keys down, what it's going to do is it's going to accelerate the ship. See how it goes really fast now as you hold it down? What happens is when you tick relative, it's adding 5 to the speed as the game updates, and the game updates itself 30 times per second. So it's adding 5 to the speed 30 times per second as you hold the key down, and so it goes really fast. So it just kind of depends on what type of control system you want for your game. But you can see how easy it was for us to actually do that. Okay, so I'm going to put that back to not being relative because it's a little bit hard to play, for me anyway, because I'm not very good at games. Well, shoot 'em up games anyway. So that's all done. So what I want to do now is make the ship fire the bullet. So we could use the space key, but let's use the left arrow key, the left button on our mouse. So we're going to go add event. We want to go to mouse. We want to go all the way down to global mouse and then select global left button. So the reason we choose the global left button event is it means that our mouse can be anywhere in the screen and it will trigger that. Actually, we're still using the keyboard, aren't we? So maybe we should use the space key. Yeah, we'll use the space key just for this particular video. But in the training sessions, you'll learn how to do the mouse stuff. So let's go keyboard, space key. So what I want to do now is, for this event, I want to do an action that will create a new player bullet for me. So if we go to the main 1 tab, so there's a whole bunch of tabs that do different things. Go to the main 1 tab. In the object section, the very first one is called create instance, and that creates a new instance of an object for us. So drag in the create instance, and it says, hey, what object do you want to create? Well, I want to create a player bullet object. So just click on that button, choose that, and that's how we tell it to create a player bullet. At the moment, it's going to create the bullet at X position 0 and Y position 0, which is not correct, because I want to create the bullet where the player ship is. So to do that, this time, if I tick relative, it means something different from the relative in the movement. If I tick relative here, it creates the instance relative to the player ship that's creating that bullet. And so we don't have to worry about where the ship is. Gamemaker will handle that for us, and it creates a bullet where your ship is. So if I now run that, and as I move backwards and forwards, if I hold the mouse key down, or the space bar down, you can see that it creates a whole bunch of player bullets for me, and it creates them where the player ship is. Okay, so how easy was that? Within less than 10 minutes, we've got a moving ship, we've got a moving background, we can fire some bullets. So hopefully you can see that actually doing games in Gamemaker, you don't have to be a programming genius. Alright, you just want to have the ability to want to learn and have some fun, because it's really fun and interesting, and we'll be doing some really cool games in the lesson. So you'll create and extend the Space Invaders game, you'll learn how to do a Pac-Man type game, You'll learn how to do a platform type game. Depending on how far you get through, you'll learn how to do your own Flappy Bird game if you're interested in creating your own Flappy Bird game. And if you really get through everything, then you might even have a chance to create a tower defense style game as well. So there's tons of different things you can learn to do, and that will help you when you come to design your game for the competition. So I really do recommend that you come along to the training sessions and the competition, even just to come along and see what it's like and have some fun and meet a whole bunch of girls that are interested in technology, and you get to mingle with our computer science female students as well, who are really cool and exciting, and you'll have a lot of fun at this event. And there will be spot prizes as well, so even if you don't get first, second or third, you have a chance to win some spot prizes, which will be cool. So please register for the Gamemaker competition, because the more people we get interested, then the bigger event we could have in future years. Alright, that's bye for me, and I hope to meet you all in the Gamemaker competition. Bye!